about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. Babe Ruth hit his first one, heard around the world. Sherman marched with the Union and burned the arsenal. Old Market House still standing, but stands for freedom's will. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. My all-American city, Fayetteville. Talking about my hometown, Fayetteville.
And good evening. Welcome to our September 22nd regular City Council meeting. Call the meeting to order and ask the Reverend Greener from Campground United Methodist Church to come forward. If we would all please rise and please remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let us pray. Compassionate and loving God, you have given to us the hope of eternity and the privilege of this day. You have shown us what life can be and given to us the dream of a world made new. Grant that we may be so shaped by your promise, that we may be wholly yours. Touch those secret places that most need the care of your mercy. Tear down the barriers that keep us from loving those you send to us. Root out all violence and selfishness from in us, and instill in us a trust for your care and providence. Pour out your Spirit on our leaders and the leaders of our whole nation. Fill them with the hope of your kingdom and guide them by your Spirit, that we might live into your dream for all people. In the confidence of your mercy, we pray. Amen.
Pastor Greener, would you tell us something about your church?
Well, Campground Church dates back to about 1837, to camp meetings that were held on that site. We have been involved in ministering to the community for 180 years.
And you're right off Skybo Road, sort of across from the Chick-fil-A. Is that,
okay?
Am I close?
Behind Second and Market.
Right, which is the Jimmy John's and the...
Correct. And the movie theater and all that good stuff.
All the good stuff. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you.
Council, at this time we'll move to item 4.0, which is the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion, Mr. Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like a move to approve the agenda, except moving 8.06, the annexation part, to the beginning of the public hearings.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
We have an appropriate first and second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, council, I'll ask for your vote. Madam Clerk. There we go. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Hurst, you also have an announcement, I think, in reference to Fayetteville Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the many volunteers. We had nearly 70 volunteers show up early Saturday morning, and we cleaned up Cross Creek from Rowan Street, Bragg Boulevard, all the way to the dog park. We had Fayetteville Terry Sanford government class students. We had a Boy Scout troop. We had the Sergeant Audie Murphy group from Fort Bragg, and also the 65th Military Police group from Fort Bragg as well, and other volunteers. We pulled up nearly 4,000 pounds of debris out of Cross Creek. So I just want to say thank you so much for their participation.
Thank you. At this time, I would like the Allen family to please come up as we recognize Alicia Faith Allen. The City of Fayetteville, North Carolina, Certificate of Recognition. On behalf of the Mayor, City Council, and over 208,000 residents here, we hereby present this Certificate of Recognition in appreciation of Alicia Faith Allen for sharing her story of courage and empowerment and inspiring little girls everywhere through means of her book, Mommy Says, I Can Be Anything.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to present you that award and tell you what a great book it is. My wife, who's a principal of an elementary school, loved it, by the way. So thank you so much for your hard work. Absolutely.
Now, Alicia, I believe you all had some books here that you all were selling. Okay, you have that available. And I didn't know if Alicia had some words to say, or the family, if you all wanted to say anything. Maybe tell the audience and the listening audience how they can get a hold of a book and possibly where the proceeds go. And
What's her name?
I'm sorry?
What's her name?
Her name is Alicia Faith.
Alicia, come up here. Come up here. Come up here. Come up here. You can be anything. Sit down in that chair. Thank you. And the mic is on, so you talk to him from there, because you're a council member now. Go ahead.
First of all, I would like to thank my mom for, coaching me and, telling me to do everything, and I could be anything. And, first of all, the moment that we had an idea of, reading this book, reading and writing the book, my mom called me in, and basically she had her laptop out, and she was like, Alicia, well, do you want to read a book or write a book? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so we just started working on it, and and we started to show our family and all the person that we know. And then we started to, print out it, and we hired somebody to draw, the stuff. And I got a picture so they can show how we look like. And, that's how, it started. And also, my mom has a Nate Girl program. Nate stands for Not Afraid to Admit It, and Girl stands for Gifted, Intelligent, Royal Ladies.
Repeat that again. Girl stands for what?
Gifted, Intelligent, Royal Ladies.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Tell me what do you want to be when you grow up, then, if you can be anything?
A pediatrician.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, girl. Good. Thank you.
We can't leave Mr. Crisp standing for too long.
I bought me a book. I bought me one already, so
we want 3 more.
we got 3 of them. Yeah,
Could each get a book?
got 3.
Yeah, I think so.
hawking books in the city council.
Don't blink, there may be a policy against it. All right, at this time we'll move to item 6.0, which is the reports from the boards and commissions. And first one up is our fact report, and I believe that is Mr. Thompson. Welcome, Mr. Thompson. Good to see you in person.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My comments will be brief. I have no PowerPoint. I just want to acknowledge, first of all, the time and efforts put forth by our committee over the last 4 years, the Fayetteville Advisory Committee on Transit, better known as FACT. Special thanks to Deputy City Manager Christoph Bauer, who is an ex officio member of our committee. We also owe appreciation to the city's Department of Engineering and Infrastructure for helping us deal with DOT. You should know that some of our members are regular users of the system and are here tonight. They keep us posted monthly. I recall the day 4 years ago that Councilman Bobby Hurst gave us our charter and to study the transit needs of the city and report occasionally to you. Perhaps the most important change that has taken place since then has been as a result of council's determination to improve mass transit when many jurisdictions are doing just the opposite, was to hire Randy Hume as our director. He turned everything around. He brings a wealth of experience from much larger cities to our community and is a professional driven by customer service, first and foremost. FACT was intimately involved in helping to develop the updated transit improvement plan, which outlines future needs, many of which have been met. Strategies for accomplishing those needs as well. This council, I think, should be especially proud that it put its unanimous stamp of approval on the downtown transit center. We expect construction to get underway within the month. We are proud to have had a hand in assisting Mr. Hume in the creation of new routes over the last several months, which are just now coming online. We're grateful for council's enthusiastic support of these additions. A new route beginning at the Crown Coliseum along Owen Drive to Enterprise Avenue, where we'll once again serve residents who asked that that bus service, which was discontinued years ago, be reestablished. It will meet up with two other routes on Rayford Road at Ireland Drive. One of those routes is also new. It provides service along Rayford Road to Strickland Bridge Road, ultimately terminating at Century Circle. You may have read something about that in the paper this morning. We expect ridership there to increase as the city is able to add badly needed bus stops along the way. A new express bus route from downtown to Fort Bragg by way of Randolph Street will soon launch, providing early morning and late afternoon service for employees and many others. A second route to Fort Bragg, the transit center there, will connect fast with the Army's post-wide shuttle service. We'll use the Riley Road Gate for that one. And come the first of the year, a new route funded by Fayetteville State University will wind its way along Ramsey Street to Health Pavilion North, back again, and then on to Country Club Drive, and eventually to Murkison Road, where it will stop on Langdon Street at the Cable Arena to pick up and discharge students, and then return to Murkison Road by way of Seabrook Avenue and Jasper Street. It then will traverse along Pamela Drive and Skybo Road to Cross Creek Mall, filling a gap that has existed along the US 401 business for years. A significant service enhancement, I think, is the creation by Assistant Director Kelly Blasey of FAST's new Google Trip Planner, which of course requires that the buses run on time, and they do. We've recently added rotating security officers on a limited number of buses and at the downtown transfer center. Our hope is that council will continue to support additional funding for security on board our buses. 63 bus stop shelters, complete with concrete pads and trash receptacles, are in place, 34 of which have been installed in the last 4 years, since this committee was formed by this council. 3 others were relocated, 3 more are in inventory and ready for installation, and I believe we have 10 more on order. 21 benches, in addition to those shelters, have been put in place. But that's not enough. We must do better without being burdensome to taxpayers. Without being burdensome to taxpayers. So the Fayetteville Advisory Committee on Transit very soon will bring to council a proposal that would utilize non-tax revenues to fund a minimum of 25 additional shelters or benches every year, probably more, at no cost to the city. I'll keep you wondering about that for a while. That's our report, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, thank you, and thank you for your service to our
You're just
city.
going to leave us hanging, Mr. Thompson.
Sir?
Yeah, I said you're just going to leave us hanging.
Yeah, I am.
Mr. Crisp has a question for you.
If any of the committee are here, please have them rise so we can recognize them.
Sharon, Austin, and others who may be here, please rise.
Thank you for the work you do.
And the second question with the bus route in Langdon Fayetteville State University, what will the students have to pay?
It will be free.
All right,
That's why the university, in fact, faculty and staff of the university will also ride free. There will be some federal grant money to offset the loss in revenue resulting from that, but again, no taxpayer money is involved in that one either.
And that is a partnership with
Yes,
Fayetteville
sir.
State, where
Yes,
they've
sir.
contributed $150,000
$150,000 roughly beginning the first of the year.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Thompson.
Thank you all.
The next report is from our Stormwater Advisory Board, presenting the 2014 annual report. Kevin Briscoe.
Good evening. All right, I do have a PowerPoint, but I promise you I'll be brief. Okay. All right. The purpose of the Stormwater Advisory Board is to provide guidance to council and advice. And we also, it's mandated through our federal permit. So we consist of 5 individuals. We serve a 2-year term, and you can serve up to 2 terms. The stormwater program consists of 2 parts, which is quality and quantity. The quality portion is federally mandated, which is passed down through the state, and it's also, once it's passed down through the state, we have a specific permit that guides us along. The quantity portion is through the city, and what we want to do is to better the infrastructure in the city. The city receives no federal funding for stormwater, so it's strictly funded by stormwater fee. The actual stormwater, our responsibilities are, we would hear appeals. If there was a company, they were discharging illegal matter into a river or a stream, and they were assigned a fee, and they wanted to appeal that fee, they would come back to the board, and we would hear that case, and then the board would make a decision on it, and then it would go from there. Some of our accomplishments, and I'd like to thank council for a major one, and that was the stormwater fee increase. The stormwater fee increase, it helps current projects, and it also helps increase guidelines that's been passed down for our permit. We've heard certain presentations on certain programs. One of the programs is the Filterra program, which was over at the train station. And this what the Filterra program is, it filters the stormwater so that it goes to clean, or goes into the drain clean. Some of our challenges is future fee increases. We hope to see possible fee increases in the future. And one of our major challenges would be board members. It's a huge challenge once you get on the board and you're a new board member, I'll use myself as an example. It takes you almost a good year to actually get spun up and actually learn the requirements and what you actually need to do on this board to be effective. And right now we're short board members, and I would reach out to City Council and ask if we could get some board members in as soon as possible. I know it's a process, so I do understand that, but it would be great if we could get some board members so that they can get spun up. I myself, I'm on the end of my 3rd year, so I have 1 more year left. So that's a major challenge, is getting board members and getting them spun up so that we can be effective. And also just the membership as a whole, once we get the board in, the education piece and getting everybody doing what they need to be doing. Any questions?
Mayor Pro Tem Davey.
Thank you so much for your presentation. What would you like to suggest to us to do with the board limits? Do you think it needs to be a longer term, or in regards to the learning curve?
That's a definite possibility because I know, like I said, for myself, it took almost a good year, 1.5 years, because the permit is very long. And to actually get, because we meet every Tuesday or the first Tuesday of each month from 5:30 to whenever. And sometimes you just don't have enough time in that meeting to actually get the education. So that's a great possibility.
Thank you. Councilmember Jensen.
I was going to ask basically the same question. Do we need to re-look? I don't know if it's our job or somebody to re-look the terms of the 2-year term, because I understand you're probably drinking water like through a fire hose, and
Yes, ma'am.
by the time you learn it, it's time to
Exactly.
go back again. So is that something that we can do?
That is certainly something we can ask Mr. Hurst to look at for the next report out on the committee members. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wright.
Just wanted to say thank you for the work that you guys do on this advisory board. The question that I have, stormwater backup. I know you guys doing a lot of advisory, but particularly an area in Chestnut Hills where I'm getting a lot of complaint from the residents over there. Have you heard anything about the backup in Chestnut Hills? It's a tremendous backup when it rains over there, and what is being done if you have heard anything?
Very good question, sir. I do not know the specifics on that, sir. I will get with staff and I can get that information for you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they climbing up and down my back over there, and really need some action on Chestnut Hills.
Yes, sir.
If you can. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Mr. Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kevin, thank you for your service to the city on this advisory board. And just to let you know, we are meeting in mid-October, and Mr. Kaysen will be there because we have 2 appointments to make at that time. And so we know how important it is that we fill all of our boards and commissions, and how vital these boards and commissions are to us as policymakers in making decisions. And especially in District 5, as many other districts experience stormwater issues, quantity especially in my area. So appreciate your leadership. Mr. Kaysen, we'll see you in mid-October and make those appointments, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Colvin.
Again, sir, reiterating the importance of what you do. I didn't realize the significance of stormwater until I actually got on council and see how many calls we get about issues,
Yes,
which
sir.
is a real concern in this city, and with the way that the water is managed. So we appreciate that. Now, I saw one of the tasks you said of this board. You make recommendations about a fee increase,
Yes, sir.
or the recommended fees.
Yes, sir.
And so, basically, as you take that into account, do you all have a plan as to how you can expedite the installation of the proper drainage in order to help with the water problems that we're having, like in District 5? I've got several members in my particular district that are having runoff problems from development and that kind of thing. So when you come back to us about the fees, you give us a plan to go by as well.
Sounds
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next report is from the Taxi Cab Review Board, and your name is not on the agenda, so please introduce yourself to us.
Hi, my name's Carl McCartney. How are you?
Hey, Carl. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council people. My understanding is you should have already received a hard copy entitled Taxi Cab Review Board Annual Report for City Council. So I'm not going to stand here and read you the whole report. I'm just going to summarize who we are and what we do and how often we do it. To drive a taxi cab in the city of Fayetteville, you have to get what's called a convenience, a certificate of convenience. It's essentially a license to operate a taxi cab in the city of Fayetteville. There are cases when the city taxi cab inspector has to deny applications for various reasons. There are also cases where that same inspector may have to revoke or suspend someone's license. When that happens, they have the right of appeal. They can, within 30 days, appeal the inspector's decision. That's where the Taxi Review Board comes in. That person brings their appeal to us. We consist of 2 members that come directly from the taxi cab industry. They can be owners or drivers. They're actually approved by the City Council. 2 of our other members are police officers with the rank of lieutenant or higher, and they're appointed by the city police chief. The chairperson is selected by the city manager. When the appellant comes in for his hearing, he's entitled to either have a closed hearing or an open hearing. Open hearing meaning the public could sit on it if they'd so like, but generally people they prefer the closed hearing. He's entitled to bring an advocate or even a legal representation as an attorney. He can bring witnesses. He's also entitled to cross-examine the inspector or any witnesses that the inspector brings in. After hearing both sides, the board votes. It's a five-person board. 3 people make a quorum as long as you have 1 police officer and 1 industry member there. In the past 5 years, we've had a grand total of 9 hearings. In the last 2 years, 0 hearings. So that's essentially who we are and what we do, and if there are any questions, I'll take them now.
Mr. Hurst.
Thank you, Carl. Marion Wilson, during, I believe it was our February 2014 appointment committee meeting, had discussed the need for some changes, and I see under issues that y'all are in the process of preparing a set of amendments to Chapter 26 for consideration. What is the timeline for that? When does that come?
That's actually not the review board doing that. That's the legal department.
Okay.
And
Ms. McDonald, do you have an update?
And developmental services. But yeah, my understanding is there is some effort being made to revise some of the ordinances.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Ms. McDonald, where are we in the process of those updates for the taxi?
Councilmember Hurst, I'll have to get back with you. As the gentleman said, it is a joint effort with Development Services and one of the assistant attorneys, but I'll follow up and have your response tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms.
Have the council respond.
Thank you, Carl, for your service.
Thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute, we've got more questions. I'm sorry. Mr. Colvin and then Ms. Davy. I'm sorry. My lights. Ms. Davy, then Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
Is there anything, since you said that there's been 2 years since you all haven't had any appeals,
That's correct.
Is there anything else that we can do? Because I did speak to a couple of members and they felt like you all didn't have enough authority to do certain things. And you being the chairperson, I didn't know if there was anything else that you think that you all need to change your scope on. I know there's been rumor of Uber coming to town. I don't know if you all are looking at that at all, but.
Well, by ordinance, our sole duty, the only thing we're allowed to do is vote on appeals. Just my personal opinion, I think if you really wanted to have somebody that looked more at ordinances and gave advice and stuff like we're really set up to hear appeals. We're kind of balanced with the 2 members of the industry that may or may not favor the appellant more. And on the other side, you have two members of law enforcement who may be considered maybe more likely to favor the city and an inspector. So that's really how our personnel is set up. I mean, my opinion is if you'd want an authority, a board that actually handled, recommendations to ordinance and stuff, I'd look at maybe, making a separate advisory board that would also include members from the customer base. I mean, our board is 2 police officers, a member of traffic engineering, and 2 taxi cab drivers. I mean, there's no representation on our board as is from the people who use taxi cabs. So my recommendation would be you keep our board as is, we hear appeals, and if you wanted to move further along and have more input, I'd create a separate advisory board.
Thank you. And I do know that staff is looking at some of the challenges that are brought to us by the new social activities. Mr. Wright?
How you doing, Carl?
Great.
You kind of answered some of my questions based upon what you do and what your board does, but maybe you can give me some insight. Individual cab drivers, like sole proprietors, can a person get licensed to drive a cab and be in business for themselves independently?
Yes.
Okay. And so who determines whether we need more cab drivers or more of that type of business in the greater Fayetteville, Cumberland County area? And do you feel like it's adequate right now?
Well, I think as is, there's no cap placed on the amount of drivers. I think, years past, before I was involved with this at all, there actually was a cap placed on the amount of people who could own a certificate of convenience. I wasn't around for the debate on that. I'm not sure why the cap was lifted. I think it was lifted maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago. But now, I mean, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure now if you apply and you have a clean criminal record and you pass your application and you have a vehicle, you can operate as a cab company.
And can you, or do you have to get a type of pass to go on posts or security as a cab driver to get on and off posts?
I believe they do. I mean, I'm not. You might have to ask inspections about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the certificate of convenience itself, does that security, but I think they still have to go through the security checks and what have you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too. Council, next on the agenda is item 7.0, which consists of the consent items. Mr. Arp.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I move that we approve the consent item with the exception of item 7.10. I'd like to pull that for discussion.
Second. Is that a work session?
For a work session discussion, correction.
Okay. All right, council, that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McDougall. Council, discussion on the motion, please. Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote. That is a 9-1 with Mr. Moan voting against.
There's some irony in that.
I left that up there for a long time to look at that. Thank you, council, for your vote. We're going to move to 8.0. And Madam Attorney.
Yes, sir. You pulled item 7.10?
Right, to go to a work session.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. 8.06 will be our first hearing. Public hearing, I'm saying that so you can get ready. The public hearings or individuals wishing to speak at the public hearing should have signed up with the city clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. 15 minutes will be allowed for each side of the issue to be discussed. Each speaker will be limited to only 3 minutes unless your group wishes to appoint just one speaker. Time used in response to a question from a city councilman council member will not be counted against your time. Discussion following the public hearing is limited to this body only unless someone from this chair recognizes someone in the audience to answer that question. So when your name is called by the city clerk, we ask that you come to the podium and clearly speak your name and home address for the record. Then when you see the light located on the podium change from green to yellow, you have 30 seconds left to speak. When you see the light turn to red, your time has expired. And again, due to policy limitations, we are unable to extend any time given. With that being said, Mr. Nash.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the first of two public hearings tonight. This is an area referred to as part of one parcel adjacent to Stonegate, Section 4. It's a very small area. I'll try to get you oriented. It's up on the north side of the city. The Stonegate subdivision is already in the city. It's across from Pine Forest High School and on Andrews Road. It was annexed in 2004. The developer's been developing this in sections. They're now doing the plans for Section 4, and they've simply discovered that a little bit of land is still not inside the city, needs to be brought in. And on this map, it's shown in with a green color. I'll try to point to it here. Very small. Here's another map of it, just showing you the tiny size of it. Our legal description map. You have a lot of information in your packet. I won't go through all that this evening. We do recommend option 1 in the memo, which would have you adopt a proposed annexation ordinance this evening, effective tonight, and that your action be also consistent with and affirm the initial zoning action that was on your consent agenda. Several reasons. The petition has been found to be sufficient. That means that the persons who signed it, Mr. and Mrs. Armstrong, have found to still be the owners. No changes have occurred in the ownership. Our departments and the PWC divisions can handle this, and the budgetary impact should be positive. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Nash. Madam Clerk.
No, we have no speakers for this item.
Okay, so we'll open and close at 8.06, and I'll look to council for an action. Ms. Jensen.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve, let me get myself, that we approve this, 8.6, sorry, that we approve the annexation of part of one parcel adjacent of Stonegate, Section 4.
Second. All right. Motion made by Ms. Jensen, seconded by Mr. Arp. Count.
1 October 2014. Is that right?
That's right.
I didn't bring my
I thought
glasses.
Mr. Nash had said effective tonight, September 22nd.
Mr. Nash? What's the motion?
You want me to redo the motion?
Please.
Okay. I can't read. Okay. I request that the annexation of Part 1 of one parcel adjacent to Stonegate, Section 4, effective September 22nd, 2014.
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Jensen, seconded by Mr. Arp. Council, at this point, is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote, please. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Mr. Nash will, at this point, move to 8.01. Mr. Harmon, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Let's see. This is the first of the zoning cases for tonight, and this first case is a special use permit, so we will need to swear people in. Do you want us to go ahead and swear people in for all three of the special
how you
use
prefer to do
permits
it?
at once?
Yes, please.
So if anyone is here for any of the first three special use permits, P1423F on Hope Mills Road, P1427F on Middle Road, or P1429F on Eastern Boulevard, please step to the clerk to be sworn in.
Which for the audience, that is 8.01, 8.02, and 8.03. If you're here for any one of those three items, please come forward.
Mayor, I have the names of the 5 speakers, if you would like me to call them.
Yeah,
Okay.
just for the record.
Miss Joy Innes, Mr. Stephen Van Hook, Mr. Bob Bennett, Mr. Joseph Howell, and Mr. Homer Walker. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, so help you God? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first case we have is P1423F. This is a special use request for a single-family residence in an LC limited commercial district. Property is located at 2242 Hope Mills Road. Just to give you an idea of where the property is, you've got Queensdale here, just to the south, Hope Mills Road here, across the street, fairly large mini storage facility. You'll notice, though, that the properties on 3 sides of this are zoned residentially. This property itself was rezoned a few years ago to allow for a daycare. Daycare is no longer in operation, and they would like to use it as a single-family residence now, but still have the ability in the future, when Hope Mills Road in that area becomes more commercial, to switch it back. Again, it is mainly low-density residential on this west side of Hope Mills Road in this area, commercial on the west side of Hope Mills Road. The Hope Mills Road plan does call for low-density commercial throughout that swath of kind of purple there on the map. This is a picture of the house as it sits currently. Again, it was a daycare at one time, and then just an orientation photo looking north on Hope Mills Road. You can see a little bit of the wall here to the right of the mini storage warehousing. The Zoning Commission and staff both recommend approval of the special use permit. Again, the back and both sides of the property are zoned and used as residential units. Lot's not deep enough to support large or intense commercial use, and retaining the LC zoning will allow the property to easily transition to small commercial use like a daycare again or something similar when conditions warranted. Are there any questions of staff, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Crisp.
Norman, I just want to make sure there's clarity here. This property is zoned limited commercial,
Yes, sir.
and the property surrounding it are residential. And so the special use permit will allow the owner to use it for residential, but it also gives that owner the option of going back to limited commercial sometime in the future. Is that right?
Exactly, without having to come back before the city council for a rezoning again.
Council, any other questions? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we have no speakers for this item.
We'll open and close the hearing, and I'll go to council for action. Mr. Crisp.
May I move to approve the issuance of a special use permit to allow the property located in a limited commercial district to be used as a single-family residence. The property located
Mr. Moan?
May I ask Councilmember Crisp to also add based on the findings of fact that are found in our agenda? Special use permit based on the findings of fact.
I would amend that motion to say based on the findings of facts.
Great. Mr. Moan, do you also ask those to be read, or are you okay with the way that they're memorialized in the agenda?
I'm okay the way they're memorialized in the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second to Mr. Crisp's motion? All right, Mr. Colvin, council discussion on the motion, please. All right, seeing none, I'll ask for your vote. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Move to 8.02, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to recuse myself for this 8.02 agenda item.
Okay, I need a motion from council, please.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. McDougal, Mr. Wright, council discussion on excusing Mayor Pro Tem Davey from this item. All right, seeing none, I'll ask for your vote, please. Madam Attorney, and then council, I'll ask for your vote again.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Davy does need to articulate the basis for her request.
I'm not able to present a unbiased approach to this objective item.
All right, council, I'll ask for your vote again, please. We have a motion and a second. That is 9 unanimous for those members voting, including the attorney. Thank you.
Are we ready,
Mr. Harmon, yes, sir, 8.02.
The next case you have before you is P1427F. This is a request for a special use permit for outdoor storage and sales in a community commercial district. Property is located at 511 Middle Road. This gives you an idea of where the property is located. We do have, this is right where Middle Road and Dunn Road splits. So you have Dunn Road heading north here, and then Middle Road heading north here. The property is bordered by single-family 10 residential district to the north and heavy industrial district to the south. Again, just some of the land uses in the area. You can see there's a mix of commercial and single-family residential in that area. Our land use plan does call for heavy commercial on this property, along with industrial on the properties to the north and south, and heavy commercial across the street as well, then moving into medium density or multifamily in the orange color. Here are a few photos of the property. You may have noticed on the aerial photo I had a while ago, which was taken in 2010, which was when this was still being used as a garage. There were quite a few transfer trailers scattered about the lot and a bunch of other stuff. The new owners of this property have cleaned this up quite a bit. You don't see any of that lingering on the property anymore. This is a fairly large tract. It's 10 acres. There is a house that's been turned into a business, and it is on basically one half of this lot, and then that garage area on the other, and you'll see in a moment what they're looking to do here. Just giving you an idea of the back of the lot as well. This is what the applicants are looking to do. They're looking to store and sell many storage buildings, personal storage buildings that you would put on your own property, storage barns, some people might call them, like you'd put in your backyard. The area in purple on here would be the area designated as a sales area. That is 80 feet off of the right-of-way from Middle Road. Then you have here along Middle Road, a side street buffer of 25 feet, which would include a row of hedges along with a row of trees as well, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or so trees through that area as well. Conditions of approval. These conditions of approval are slightly different than what came out of the Zoning Commission meeting, and that's due to the fact that during that meeting, some of the conditions really wouldn't allow, they gave them permission to, recommended permission to do this, but didn't give them really the ability to do this under the conditions they put. And so staff has worked with the applicant and tweaked the first two conditions a bit to make it something that's a lot more practical, not only for the applicant but the city as well. Again, that 25-foot excuse me, 25-foot buffer along the front, along Middle Road, that I showed you just a moment ago in the green area. There'd be a street yard buffer consisting of contiguous evergreen hedge, at least a foot above grade at the time of planting, and canopy trees spaced 25 to 40 feet apart. Then a sales area limited to the area shown in purple on that conditions map. The area would be no closer to the right-of-way than around approximately 85 feet. Property to the north, that area I showed you that was zoned single-family residential currently. The sales area would be no closer than 300 feet from that area, and then no closer than 30 feet from the property to the south, which is an existing commercial enterprise as well. The Zoning Commission had also wanted no sales areas closer than 50 feet from the northernmost property line, but the applicants are willing to go 300 feet because this is a big tract of land. No construction of the buildings would occur on site. They'd limit the hours of operation, and no more than 20 buildings on display at one time in the front display area. Those are the conditions recommended by staff. I think the applicants are probably going to ask for something slightly different when they come up, possibly 25 storage buildings in that front area. And although it's not part of this special use permit, if the special use permit is approved for them to sell these, they will be able to have a storage area behind the garage to have kind of an inventory area where they may keep as many as 40 or so out of view of the public right-of-way. One other thing that is a little change from when this originally went to the Zoning Commission, the applicants are asking that they be able to, when they sell these, for people to be able to take them from their lot. That's why they want this extra storage of buildings in the back. And just to give you an idea, some of the issues that have come up are that, there's worry from a neighbor that this could cause heavy traffic because of these sales. Well, right now in this CC district, here are just a few, things that could be done, tomorrow. Somebody could come in for a building permit without going through council, without going through the Zoning Commission. Things like a community center, a kennel, a convenience store, auto repair, child care center, gas station, boat sales, taxi cab service. All those could be done on the property as it sits right now, and staff feels that all of those would generate a lot more traffic than the sales of these mini storage buildings. The Zoning Commission and staff did recommend approval of the special use permit. Property is zoned for heavy commercial. Our land use plan calls for heavy industrial uses both to the north and south. and this being based on meeting the city's ordinances and conditions listed above. Any questions of staff before we open your public hearing?
Mr. Moan.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. I'm looking at the agenda and where you had the following standards in the printed agenda, then it's a little bit different on your PowerPoint today. Is that because you kind of added in the alternative conditions that staff recommended, 1 and 2?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's why the number. Okay.
Yes, trying to keep the confusion level down during the
Right.
meeting.
So you just consolidated onto one slide versus
Exactly.
2 different parts. All right, thank you.
Ms. Jensen.
Can you go back, I think it's 2 slides where the blue building is? And this is the area that we're talking about where they're going to do the selling.
This is the area. It would be, basically from here, it would be 85 feet, 80 to 85 feet inside the property. They would also, from this point to the south, put a hedgerow with trees as well, to kind of buffer the look from the road.
And the handout that we just got is showing the, I guess the buildings, and they're having, I don't know if you saw the handout, but they're having like plants around them. Is that correct in what I'm seeing?
You can ask the applicant about
Okay.
that part. That's not one of the conditions.
Okay.
But it would help to soften the look of it. I think you've
So
probably
we're
got
going to have plants all around.
I think you have a copy of their presentation,
Okay.
their
All right.
slideshow that they're going to do in a moment.
But the city is going to have them have plants along the way.
Yes, along the frontage.
Okay.
Not only shrubs, but also trees as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Wright.
That building there is that the way it's going to look, or any improvements going to be on this particular building?
They don't plan to use that particular building as part of this business. I think right now they're using it as just a storage area, for, to keep stuff inside, out of the weather. They have no plans to use that particular building for this business.
Okay. And on this side of the road, could you go back to the map that's looking down, the overview, back the other way? Well, we can use this one. As far as residential, there is no residential around in that particular area.
Well, none that's built. You do have a property zoned residentially here, but it has not been built on at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McDougall.
I got what I was looking for, Mr. Mayor. They were talking about some handouts, and I had not received them.
Thank you. Mr. Harmon, no further questions from council. Madam Clerk.
May we have 4 speakers for this item?
Okay.
The first speaker is Miss Joy Innes.
Come forward, please, Ms. Ennis, and we will open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for allowing us an opportunity to speak this evening. I'm going to present to you Johari Family Services, Johari as a whole, but under this umbrella is Johari Equipment and Sales. We were established in 2008. Johari is a veteran-owned and historically underutilized business. We provide mental health counseling on the right side, where you saw the photo of the house that we converted into our office space. That is what we use for our mental health counseling. And our focus is to keep the families together in the community. And part of what we want to do is, we have a contract with Workforce Development and Vocational Rehab, is to offer young people an opportunity to develop other skills, core values, and we operate a lot of free programs in the community as well. So by diversifying our business and utilizing our land, that will give us an opportunity to do more outreach as well. This is the house as it looks today, the office space as it looks today. If anyone has ridden past that house in the past, it was overgrown. The ditch was full of trash. It was overgrown with weeds that were higher than my height, to be quite frank. It was really disgusting. So we spent a lot of time cleaning up the property, and it's always a continuous effort because people do go by and put trash in the ditches. So this is to the right side, and this would be the side that is facing the residential side. But the interest that we have is the left side, which is facing the south side, which is the Grove Street side, which is where it is industrial and more commercialized. This is us where we received a grant from the Florence Rogers Trust for our food pantry. There is no food pantry on that side, on the Eastover side, so we actually do operate a food pantry free every second and fourth Thursday of the month. This is the project that we embarked upon. It was an extensive project to renovate the property. We had to pretty much take everything out and restore the entire property. We had siding that was damaged. We had trees, bushes growing in towards the house. We had windows broken. There was a lot of work that we had to do. Electrical work, we had to pull permits for electrical work, circuit breakers. We had quite a bit of work. So we took all of the flooring up, and you can see us working. The cleanup cost, ditch, landscaping, bushes, trees, weeds, ants. There were an enormous amount of ant mounds, so our staff wouldn't be able to enjoy the property because there were so many ant mounds all over the place. We had an issue with backflow. The rehab cost totaled us approximately about $30,000 to date. We still have work to be done, but it is functional for us right now. It's actually a quite beautiful property. It just had been neglected. So what's next for Johari? Old Hickory Buildings was established in 1997. It's in 24 states, and they do have very more quality sheds. We've done a lot of research on different types of buildings because we were actually in the business of purchasing one for ourselves. So that's why we actually selected Old Hickory, because that's the product that we would buy. It's hard to stand by or sell something if you wouldn't purchase it or utilize it yourself. But one of the other benefits to the community is that we would generate more revenue for the community as well. On average, for our particular area, the regional director looked at 10 sites and averaged that our particular site would gross about $533,000 a year, $44,000 a month revenue coming into the city. So I also gave you all a larger image of this one that talks about the Old Hickory inside and out. It talks about the quality of the types of buildings so that it is consistent with the standards that Johari also has. Is that we have very high standards, so it would be, these buildings are indicative of how we do business as well. They have a 5-year warranty, and these are just some examples of some of the products that would be on site. They're actually quite beautiful storage buildings. There's nothing unattractive about them. And you can also see the wind rating for the lofted buildings and a utility shed. We also will have a few metal buildings on site. And we offer free delivery for 30 miles, free delivery and setup within a 30-mile radius. And again, this is the area that Mr. Harmon was sharing with you. So we are focusing on a side that was used previously as for a trucking company, had tractor trailers, tires out there. It was a lot of stuff going on out there. We simply want to maintain the consistency of it's a beautiful lot of land, and we have made it more beautiful. And so we have no interest in degrading the quality of the community environment or the land as it stands. So we want to put these storage buildings out there, but of course have the shrubberies, as Mr. Harmon mentioned, but have high quality storage sheds. We're not looking at anything tacky. It'll be very high quality. Do we have any questions this evening for myself?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Stephen Van Hook. Okay. Our next speaker on this item is Mr. Bob Bennett.
Hey, Mr. Bennett, welcome.
Thank you.
I agree with Mr. Van Hook. I believe she said about everything. I'm on board with Mr. Van Hook and Joyce Ennis about getting a site plan out to please the city and planning board and the staff. They have accepted those conditions, so we're ready to go ahead with a final site plan, hopefully to get it approved without delay. I don't see any detrimental effect to any surrounding properties whatsoever. Please note that the staff is going to beyond what the ordinance requires in 3 different cases. But Mr. Van Hook and Ms. Ennis has said, let's do it, let's go with it. So I'm on board to help them do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Art?
Mayor, our final speaker is Mr. Joseph Howell.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council. I appreciate you having me here. I am from Wendell, actually practice law up there, and I represent Paige Farrell, who owns the property. I don't know if we can get that slide back of the area of the street, but we own the property just northeast of this, which is that residential zoned property.
Mr. Harmon's going to pull that up for you. Hang on just one second.
All righty, thank you.
Is that the slide?
That's it.
Okay.
You'll see that our property is just north of that, and that's residential, and it is stubbed out, and I'm afraid y'all probably know, I don't know the name of that subdivision. It's a very nice subdivision, which is stubbed out to Ms. Farrell's property, which is zoned residential. One thing I wanted to make sure I understood, or clarify with Mr. Harmon if I could. Mr. Harmon, you're not saying that this particular property or application is it's an accessory use, is it not? This use?
No, the only part of this that would be an accessory use would be the additional building stored in the back out of the side of the right-of-way.
Okay, so that this is commercial, community commercial presently, I believe. If I understand the community commercial zoning classification, that district allows accessory structures of no more than 1,500 square feet. Is that correct? Well, I'm referring to community commercial district, which is in the ordinance, specifically indicates that accessory structures shall not exceed the amount of 1,500 square feet. I'd suggest to you that 40 to 60 of these units would well exceed 1,500 square feet. But let me talk to you a little bit about her property, that's Ms. Farrell's property, and our concern about this project. First of all, one of the larger concerns we have is that this thing is apparently evolved from what the zoning board was presented. When this was presented, if you will refer back to the application, you will see that the owners of the property themselves indicated that they were not going to deliver these units on site, that a person would come up. Essentially what would happen would be like a showroom. That was our understanding, and in fact, that's what they asked for. People would come on site, look at a particular model, order it, and it would be shipped to them directly from the manufacturer. That has now evolved. Oh, and they wouldn't have more than 18 units total. They'd have 18 models people could look at. Now we're hearing that it's going to be 60 units, and they will have delivery on site. That concerns my client, and I understand that concern because she's got single-family housing zoning where she is. You're talking about more trucks, more deliveries, more traffic, a significant amount of difference between what was presented. Mr. Harmon indicated that somebody could come in tomorrow and make this property heavy commercial. I don't think so. Not as long as there's some other use on the property. I take issue with that. If he differs on that, I'd appreciate him explaining it. We have asked for a number of, and I believe your zoning council imposed a number of conditions. What we simply want is are the conditions that were presented originally by the applicant themselves, and those conditions are these. No more than 18 of these sheds on the property. No delivery to customers on site. Deliveries will be directly to the consumer from the factory. No manufacturing or assembly on the site. We would like for the hours of operation to be from 9 to 6 Monday through Friday. And if there's going to be a buffer, and there should be along the property line with Ms. Farrell's property, it should be a type D buffer that will well buffer this operation. Again, going back to our concern, if this property were going to be, we seem to have shifted from what we originally were told, and in fact, all of the property owners who were affected or potentially affected, and your planning council was originally told about how this property would develop. We just want it to be done the way it was originally intended. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Mayor, we have no further speakers for this item.
We will close the public hearing. And Mr. Art?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council approve the issuing of a special use permit to allow for the outdoor storage and sales in a community commercial district located at 511 Middle Road and being the property of Rathel Mitchell and wife, using alternatives 1 and 2 as presented by the staff and based on the finding of facts as memorialized in the agenda presented tonight.
Second.
We have an appropriate first and seconded by Councilmember Wright. Mr. Hurst?
Mr. Mayor, I wanted item 6 did increase from 20 storage buildings to 25. If Mr. Arp, Councilmember Arp notes that.
So noted and agreed to.
Mr. Crisp?
Mr. Harmon, please. I believe I understood you to say that zoning and staff has recommended 20 units max. Is that still the recommended number?
Well, that's what we're recommending, but conditions, as always, can change by council. The applicant is asking for 25. They say that's how many different models that the company they're working with has, and they'd like to be able to put one each of their models out front for people to be able to see.
And there, ma'am, somebody, there will be 25 different models? I guess I'm trying to get a handle on how many different models. I would think that 20 different models would equate to 20 units on the property, and that ought to be sufficient. But I don't know. I'm in a quandary here. Somebody help me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hold on just a minute. Why don't you come forward and say that in the microphone so everybody can hear it?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Since you were signed up to speak earlier and waived your time, we'll have you.
Speak now. There are about 22 to 23 different models offered of these different buildings. Some of them are buildings and some of them are sheds.
Okay, so my question then, Mr. Mayor and sir, is why can't you live within the parameters that zoning and staff recommended 20 units. You gave us some beautiful diagrams here that you could show to prospective customers for the other two different kinds.
Well, we can. We can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Colvin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I was just going to add, and I think you cleared it up. I mean, his application said approximately.
Yes.
Okay, and so at that time, apparently, you didn't have all the information to make an exact assumption. You wouldn't have given yourself plus or minus with the approximate, is there? Thank you.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated, Mr.
wanna
Wright.
ask him.
Oh,
Can
Hang
I
on.
ask a question? Okay.
Based upon, sir, the acreage that you're going to be utilizing, when we looked at the film, looked at the picture, how are you planning on setting those up on the property, and how far would that be from the buffer?
How far were we going to set them back?
Yeah, well,
That's going to be actually included in the site plan that Mr. Bennett has.
Oh,
He's already got the site
I'm just
plan.
trying to, the image of your site, how it will look from the street. You guys done a lot of work to improve already. I just want to kind of get a feel of how would you set your units in there for viewing of your customers as they come in and out, and based upon your acreage, how far they will be apart, that kind of thing. Have you designed that as far as how far they would be apart? They'll be in a straight line coming through. How's it going to look?
It's part of his site plan that he's.
Oh, he has not developed it yet.
Mr. Wright, are you asking to see the site plan? Is that what you're asking for?
I don't need to see the site plan. I just
Okay.
need them to explain it to me.
Oh, okay, go ahead, please.
I know exactly what you're asking, Councilman. What you're asking is how they'll be positioned and how far apart. That's not our area. That is the regional manager. When they come out, we have designated a specific area for parking and a specific area. So we have that buffer from the other commercial property to the left of us. So we will position them to the left.
Okay.
And it'll be out of the right of way when you drive into the lot. It'll be a significant amount, which we use now, to drive through, and then it'll be farther towards the left, where you saw the grassy area, and back towards the garage area, all the way back.
Okay, thank you.
So they have.
It's basically, you're saying they have a design
They have
based
a
from
design
your
that they
from your
come out.
headquarters company that they do.
Yes.
Okay, that's
so
all I
that
need
when
to
they
know.
do the delivery in
It's-
and out, that it's easy. and
Thank
there's
you.
no
That's beyond my
disruption.
expertise.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Jensen.
Thanks. Ma'am, I just have one quick question. Your company that you are involved in doing this with, is 20 enough to make the business go? Because we were told 20 and then it got changed to 25.
Yes, what happened is my husband filled out the application.
Right.
And we found out from the regional manager that they normally set up 25 different models on the different sites, being that they set up different sizes and
Right.
different models.
But 20 is not a deal breaker?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council's seeing no further questions. Mr. McDougal,
Did the motion call for 25 or 20?
motion called for 25.
25, all right. Thank you.
All right, council, I'll ask for your vote. And that is an 8-1 with Councilmember Crisp voting against and Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Davey abstaining. Eight point zero three, Mr. Harmon.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Next case we have before you is P1429F. This is another special use permit request. This one is for a towing business in a community commercial district. The property address doesn't actually have an address yet because it's undeveloped. It is between 508 and 514 Southeastern Boulevard. You can get an idea here on the aerial photo where this is located. If you know the old Ramada Inn out on Southeastern Boulevard, that's it right here. Then you've got the railroad tracks that cross over here. To the north of this particular property is an arc welding supply company. You've also got heavy which is industrial. You've got heavy commercial to the south, and then more industrial behind it. This is a truck repair center for heavy trucks. The only little deceiving here is that this property in here has now been developed as part of the Hope 6 project. So that does not show up on this aerial photo, but those are apartments at this point. Most of the area, as you well know, along Southeastern Boulevard, heavy commercial. The property is located in the downtown district as far as our land use plan is concerned, and as with any downtown district, that part of our plan calls for a wide range of uses, everything from residential to industrial, which you would expect to see all of those uses in a downtown area. The purple area you see to the southeast is heavy industrial. Photograph of the particular property. Again, this is the Arc Welding Supply Company to the north. You can see the apartments in this particular photo in the background, and then the other commercial building to the south. This is the truck repair terminal that is behind the property. And just another photo on the back side of the Arc Welding Supply Company. There are some conditions of approval. This has been suggested by staff. The all outdoor storage areas be screened by type D or similar screening as defined by the UDO. All outdoor storage sales areas shall be to the rear of the property as the outdoor storage area is to the adjacent welding company. There is an attached site sketch plan that's part of your packet and meeting all of the other requirements of our city code. Zoning Commission and staff have recommended approval. That's based on the property being zoned heavy commercial. Land use plan calls for heavy industrial uses both to the north, south, and west, and heavy commercial on this particular property and the one to its south, and based on meeting the requirements of the city's development code. Are there any questions of staff before you open your public hearing?
Council questions of Mr. Harmon. Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we have one speaker for this item, Mr. Homer Walker.
Mr. Walker, please come forward. How are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I don't know much more that I can add to what Mr. Harmon has told you other than, now I'm asking to put a towing service over there. But let me say this. I fully understand that towing businesses can get a little ugly. Okay. We are not in the junkyard business. My towing service, we strictly pick up vehicles for insurance companies, which like Nationwide, Geico, companies like that, and motor clubs. Now, we're not on city rotation. We don't sell used parts. We don't sell any parts off of cars. We also pick up vehicles that have been illegally parked, vehicles that have been abandoned, illegally parked, and take them to a lot and store them until the owners can come pick them up. Now, vehicles that we pick up that have been in an accident or something, those vehicles will go to a repair shop or a body shop, sometimes as much as the next day will go to an insurance auto auction. Any vehicle that is left on the property is waiting for the owner to come and reclaim it, and most of those vehicles are driven away. I think I had given Mr. Harmon a picture of the storage fence?
I believe all the photos are in their packet.
Okay, if you look in your package, you have actually my operation now is next door. And I'm just only asking to move from 524 to between 508 and 514. But I'm also asking to put my towing service there. Now, we don't sell any parts or anything. I mean, it's just all whole vehicles. All right? Now, I've given them a sketch, and in that sketch that I've given them, I understand that I have to put a privacy fence completely around the property where the cars will be stored at, while they're waiting to be picked up. Also, I presented a site plan as to where we have parking areas with the handicap parks, the greenery for the trees and bushes and shrubbery, parking facilities, 30-foot driveway. I tried to lay out a spec, the way the city wanted to do a site plan spec. Also, I've asked Mr. Bennett to draw up a site plan if this is approved. And that's what we do. So if you look at the pictures that we have in there, you'll see a complete, my complete operation. It's called Besco Towing Service and Besco Auto Inspection Center. Now, at some point in time, I like to get my towing service on there to start with. At some point in time, I'd probably put my inspection station on there, which I would have to have two separate offices, one on one side, one on the other side, and then build a garage in the back that would be facing the inside, facing the inside of the lot. Because in the state of North Carolina, I have to have an inspection station where I can pull a vehicle inside the building. But this is an ongoing process. So I'm not in the junkyard business, none whatsoever. The city's not in the ugly, neither am I. And if you look at the photos that I presented to you, I think you'll see it as self-explanatory. Also, I think I provided a written statement with that. And if anybody have any questions, I'm ready.
I appreciate you not being into ugly. Mr. Hurst.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and as Chairman of Fayetteville Beautiful, I agree. Thank you, sir. Mr. Walker, you had said you picked up vehicles, if you'll come up to the microphone, from Nationwide, Geico, motor clubs, and others, and you carry them to a lot. Would that be this lot?
That would be this lot. I mean, I have a lot now. If you'll look at the photos that you have, I have a lot now on Eastern Boulevard.
Yes, sir.
And that lot is a fenced-in lot that's next to my inspection station. And the fence is open, it's fenced around it with a privacy fence. You can see the vehicles stored in there. And they're whole vehicles. Now, we park them in there until, okay, if they have an accident, we pick the vehicle up, we'll bring it in. Now, we don't bring it in this thing that's leaking oil and stuff like that. If we pick up a vehicle that's had an accident, 90% of that stuff is left out there where we pick it up at. We'll have to do a cleanup. So we'll bring it in, and the vehicle, either the next day or a day or so, it'll go to a repair shop or body shop. If it's a total loss, then it'll go to insurance auto auction or go to GoPart.
Okay.
And that's it. Then we pick up vehicles for stuff like Oak Run, Sycamore Park. Well, there's pictures in there for some of the other parts we'll pick up at.
So how many vehicles can you store on that lot off Southeastern Boulevard?
The one on Southeastern Boulevard, we could probably put, we could probably put 35 or 40, but at any given time, we never have more than probably 8 to 10 vehicles.
8 to 10. You see,
Right.
there was an accident in front of our small business on Grove Street, and both vehicles were left on our property with the owners saying they'd pick them up the next day. Like you said, they won't stay there for a day or two, but it was 3 weeks, and they didn't pick them up, so we had them towed out. And one of the vehicle owners came by and said, "Where's my vehicle?" So 3 weeks, I think, is a long time. You just don't know sometimes about people saying, "I'll be there to pick up my car the next day" or something. So I just was curious, Mr. Walker, because that isn't a very big property over there in between National Welders and that other business. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Any other questions? Great, we'll close the public hearing. Council. Ms. Davy?
There's no further questions by council members. I'd like to move to approve the special use permit for P14-29F, business in a CC Community Commercial District located between 508 and 514 Southeastern Boulevard, based on the finding of facts.
And that was seconded by Mr. Colvin. Council, discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote, please. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Harmon, 8.04. It's the rezoning of property on Fayetteville Road.
Yes, sir. The next case we have before you is P14-19F. This is a request to go from a single-family 15 district to an MR5 mixed residential conditional zoning district. Property located at 7015 Fayetteville Road. This property this case was actually denied by the zoning commission, so it's coming to you on appeal, and there's a protest petition, and we'll get into all of those as we go through this case. Again, here's where the property is located. Along Fayetteville Road, you have Yadkin Road just to the east, and then just off the screen to the west would be Riley Road. We do have a large apartment complex kind of catty-cornered from this, and one to the south of this particular property, and then single-family residential around the rest of the property. Currently, most of the area out there is low-density residential, again with the exception of the two apartment complexes. And our land use plan calls for this particular property to be low-density residential, and then you can see the orange being apartments in a couple of places here as well. Did mention that this is a conditional zoning. The applicants have offered a couple of conditions, one being a extended streetscape along the front, along Fayetteville Road, with expanded greenery through that area as well, and an additional 10 feet of setback here along the this is actually the eastern side of the property. The map's kind of upside down for our view here, but an additional 10 feet along this property line because it borders up to single-family residential. You can see also on this that a good swath of this property here to the what is actually the west is in wetlands, and it will have to remain that way. So there's a good portion of the property, I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 acres that will be set aside as open space. Again, I did mention this, we do have a protest petition in this particular case, and just to refresh the council, because we don't get a lot of these, and to inform the public, when a protest petition is filed, signers of, basically we have the property in question here in the middle, and we have a 100-foot buffer around the property, and they have to get signers of 5% of that buffer area to sign the protest petition in order for it to be valid. In this particular case, we have about 19% of that buffer area that has been signed for by the owners. This is a photo of the property. This is looking, going toward Riley Road. The property here on the left with the for sale sign is the property in question. There is a hill here. This would be the bottom of the hill where the creek comes under the road, and a pretty significant turn going toward Fayetteville at that point. Another photo of the property, not a lot to see. It's just a wooded vacant property at the moment. Again, the conditions that have been offered by the applicant, that landscaping plan that we looked at a moment ago along Fayetteville, a reduction in the allowed number of units to 96. This same property was denied 2 years ago for a very similar project. At that time, though, they were looking at 120 units. So they've gone down from that. And then again, that east side setback of an additional 10 feet over the standard. The zoning commission, again, did deny this rezoning, and it is coming to you on appeal. That was based on the scale and location, that the uses in zoning district on both sides and across Fayetteville are low-density, single-family residential, that the land use plan calls for low-density residential development. There's no substantial difference to the rezoning that was denied by council in 2012, and the amount of traffic in a blind spot on Fayetteville Road remains an issue. And then just again, as a reminder, since there is a valid protest petition, it does take a supermajority vote of council to approve, which in this case, since everyone is here tonight, would be 8 in favor of an adoption. Are there any questions of staff before you open your public hearing?
I see none. Thank you very much, Mr. Harmon. If we'll wait, Madam Clerk, for just a minute, I'd like for us to have a full council when we hear. Mr. McDougall?
A good break would be in,
As soon as we finish this one, absolutely. Mr. Moan?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mr. Harmon.
Okay.
As we're,
Mr. Harmon? Before we start the,
just a quick question about our housing market. Off the top of your head, do you know roughly what percentage are single-family homes and what percentage are, say, apartment condo type?
If you'll hold on one moment, let me see if, is David Nash still? Nope.
Oh, if you get it to me later.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but David Nash,
Right.
that's his life. He loves that stuff, and he eats it up. So
He's a demographer, so yes.
He can tell you down to the single unit how many we have in town.
All right, appreciate it.
thank you, Mr. Harmon. Madam Clerk, please call the first speaker.
Mayor, we have 9 speakers for this item. We have 3 speaking in favour and 6 speaking in opposition. The first speaker is Mr. Thomas Neville.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Neville. I'm an attorney here in Fayetteville, representing the owners of the property. My home address is 3610 Linden Road in Linden.
Thank you.
My business address is 115 East Russell Street. And Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me speak tonight. I just want to hit really 4 areas I'd like for you to focus in on. There's a number of speakers tonight. On our behalf, a traffic analysis, professional engineer, and also Mr. Pusey from 4D Site Selections that will speak more specifically to the site itself. But with only 2 minutes and 37 seconds to go, if you would focus just on 4 areas, please. The first one will be the concessions that the owners are willing to make. Number one, it's a 14.92 acre tract. We're requesting 96 units. This is a 20% decrease in what my clients were seeking 2 years ago. Interestingly, if we sought straight up zoning MR5, it would be 292 units. We're asking for 96. More importantly, if we just develop the project as is, we'd be allowed to erect 47 units on the property. So we're only talking about an additional increase of units from 47 to 96. So please don't lose sight of that tonight. There is a 5.32 wetland area, 5.32 acres. We're only actually required to set aside 1.49 as open space. We're agreeing to do 5.32 acres. Secondary, if you look at the surrounding properties, yes, there are residential properties around us, but there are also very large apartment complexes adjacent directly to the south of us. That is Summerhill. There's Jamestown Commons right off of Yadkin Road. There's also Applewood. And this goes into my third area, which is really an overall plan. The idea is commercial goes in commercial, residential goes in residential. Gentlemen, ladies, you need a natural buffer between commercial and purely residential. The idea usually is multi-housing, something that kind of buffers you as you go from one distinct group to the next. There's 111 commercial establishments within 5,000 feet of this site on Yadkin Road. It begs for some transition from commercial to entirely residential. I think the natural buffer that this property possesses enables that to occur. With 33 seconds to go, my last area would be traffic. You will hear it very much from the opposition regarding traffic. If I may be so bold to say, it is a red herring. You will hear from an expert traffic analysis tonight that there is no appreciable impact on the traffic and that there is nothing required as to Yadkin or to Raleigh Road. And it's pure statistics, it's pure numbers. It's easy to say there's a traffic problem, but look at the numbers, please.
Thank you.
And that was exactly 3 minutes, which is really good for a lawyer. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Chris Pusey.
Chris Pusey. My home address is 384 Canine Trail in Rayford, North Carolina. And my work address is 409 Chicago Drive here in Fayetteville. We've been working on the Fayetteville site for quite some time. And I just wanted to bring up the concessions that Thomas spoke about and give you a little bit of background as to why they came into being. We didn't just grab them out of the air. But upon our initial presentation of this site, there was some concern about the view of the project from the street. There was concern about traffic on Fayetteville Road. There was some concern about the proximity that the buildings were allowed to be by the zoning to the residential development that's to the east. So all of these concessions, and also the density of the development. We had 120 units in the original submittal. So each of these was born from a concern, request, or otherwise motivated by staff or the public opinion. And the reaction to the traffic is the turning lanes. You'll hear from Dan, who's our traffic engineer, that the left turn lane is required by the TIA, but the right turn lane's not. The right turn lane that's shown on the site plan, that's one of the conditions that the owner's offering up, is purely for the owner to address the traffic concerns. the heavily landscaped frontage all the way from property line to property line along Fayetteville is an attempt to address the view of the project from the road. Also along the front, staff thought it would be a good idea for us to give another 10 feet outside of what the setbacks are required for the zoning. There's another 10 feet been thrown into the site plan. And the same 10 feet has been applied to the eastern property, where I think there's some houses that get kind of close to the property line already, and if we were to put the apartment buildings as close as we could to the property line, the proximity of the buildings got kind of close. I think they were within 30 feet of each other, so an additional 10 feet along the east side lines gives some separation there. And then obviously the density, which was a concern, we've decreased that by 24 units. And we have done all the site work out there. We've not done a physical survey, but I'd be happy to address any questions concerning the site if they arise or if they exist now.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Dan Combo.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name's Dan Cumbo. My home address is 4709 Cornice Drive, Wilmington. My office address is 220 Old Dairy Road in Wilmington as well. So I'm work with Davenport, a transportation consulting engineering firm, and I have about 23 years of traffic engineering experience. 16 years were with the NCDOT. That's kind of a little bit on my background. TIA was not required for this project. The size of the development was small enough that it didn't meet the thresholds to require a traffic study. However, the owners decided to do this traffic study just to provide the information. It was updated earlier this year related to the reduction in the number of units to the 96 that was already mentioned. The results of the traffic study were that a westbound left turn lane on Fayetteville Road is required. That minimally met the warrants for the left turn lane. A right turn lane did not meet the warrants. However, it was included just to enhance the safety of the site access intersection. Just a couple of other things I'll mention. That as far as sight distance, that was brought up about a blind spot in a curve. Actually, the sight distance is greater than the minimums that NCDOT requires for site access in both directions. And in addition to that, the turn lanes themselves really assist in providing safety related to sight distance and stopping sight distance entering the access. The only other thing that I would mention is just that multifamily compared to single family, when you do trip generation for that type of development, it's actually generates less trips, multifamily, than single-family housing. So the difference in the peak hour traffic compared to the 47, I guess you would say by right, single-family homes versus the 96 multifamily homes. In the morning, it was eight trips. That was the difference in those two, and 17 trips in the afternoon. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Mr. Coleman.
Sir, appreciate that presentation. You said, just to make sure I'm taking notes properly, you said that multifamily generates less traffic than single-family dwellings?
That's right.
Can you explain that a little bit?
What we use for trip generation is ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers. It's a national standard. It's required by the city, by North Carolina, That's what's used all over the nation. They gather data from all different types of land uses, such as multifamily apartments, and they have a big database. So that's how trip generation is developed for the country, for the states, for different cities. So that's the standard. That's the standard for North Carolina, for the city here. That's what's used. And in the ITE standards, multifamily does generate less trips than single family. Why? I mean, I can just give you it. Again, it comes from that information. I would say that they have less, on average, you could have a smaller family sizes. You have, people that are, more people that maybe are retired or they're just starting out. So the size of the family is, I would say, smaller.
Mr. Crisp?
You indicated a traffic analysis was done. Tell me a little about that, because I'm concerned. You said you're proposing a left turn lane onto Fayetteville. I'm assuming that would be going toward Riley Road. And the reason I'm asking is because only traffic going into Fort Bragg Gate on Riley Road must have approved stickers and identification. Anything else has to come down Fayetteville to Yadkin Road and go in that gate for appropriate inspections. My concern is at what time of day did you do this? Because I'm going to tell you, I've been on Fayetteville in the morning hours and in the evening hours, and it's rough. So tell me a little about this traffic analysis that you did.
Well, I was saying that at the site driveway, the access road, there would be a left turn lane on Fayetteville coming from either direction. A left turn lane coming from Yadkin, turning left into the site, so that people turning left into the site, they could have their own separate lane to be out of the through lane on Fayetteville. So they wouldn't stop any traffic really going in either direction on Fayetteville Road. There will be a right turn lane and a left turn lane at the site access, so as not to hinder traffic on Fayetteville.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Crisp. Mr. McDougall?
Yeah, I think you said that it was mandatory to have a left turn lane, but not mandatory to have a right turn lane. Is that correct?
Based on the study and the warrants, yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Emmett Dover.
Evening.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Emmett Dover. I live at 6463 Freeport Road here in Fayetteville. My wife and I returned to Fayetteville in 1984 from Europe and did a little search in the area and found a nice residence in Summerhill. We purchased 6463 Freeport Road and have been there ever since. I retired from the United States Army in 1987, became a member of the Fayetteville Police Department, where I spent my years, and finally retired there in 2005. Since then, I have been working with the Community Watch as a block commander for Freeport Road. We came as Community Watch and residents in 2011. December of 2011, went before the Community Commissioning and got a denial. Went before you gentlemen at the old City Council and got a denial. Then we had to come back again in July in 2014 to go before the zoning commissioning again over the same property for the same area for the same issues. And we got a denial vote from the zoning commission. Now we're here before you gentlemen after getting another petition into y'all from the residents in the area. What we're trying to show you or tell you is each of you should have got a packet from us in your boxes. In that packet, it gave you some maps and some statistics. One of the maps in there is the first map, shows the area of interest of Summerhill. the city commission, or the city zoning, gives you 500-foot circle. In actual fact, what is affected by this is an area that's everything outlined in yellow. The area outlined in yellow is the whole Summerhill area. To the north is Fort Bragg. To the south is a creek bed that blocks off the access to this area. To the east is North Riley Road, and to the west is, to the east is Yadkin, and to the west is North Riley. We're blocked in there, in a little block. There are 5 exits out of this area. One is at Godfrey, which is at a stop sign, which is down by Benjamin Martin High School, elementary school. Another one is at Dandridge, which is another stop sign at Riley Road. The third one is a traffic light on Fayetteville Road, and the other one's a traffic light at Fayetteville Road at Yadkin, and a stop sign at Summerhill Road. Basically, what we're trying to say is to get in and out of this area, you have 5 ways in and 5 ways out. But between 7 and 9 in the morning, and at lunchtime, and 3 and 5 in the evening, it is very busy traffic all over this area on Fayetteville Road, with people going from left to right, and from Yadkin, and from North Riley. And I'm shutting down. Yes,
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Jackie Tuckey.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Jackie Tuckey. I live at 7002 Marquis Place in Summerhill. I'm the original owner of our house in 1977. I've lived there 28 of the last 37 years that I've owned the house, the last 25 consecutively. It's been mentioned that we have 4 multifamily communities in our neighborhood, which is true, for a total of approximately 286 units. We also have 2 relatively new and very large communities on Santa Fe, probably 2 to 3 miles away, and on Riley Road at the corner of Riley and Morganton. Property is for sale next to that along Riley Road for multifamily development exclusively. There's plenty of apartments along this area on Morganton, on Cliffdale, and all of that traffic is heading down Riley Road or cutting through Fayetteville to Yadkin. And we just appreciate if we could maintain the integrity of our neighborhood, and hope that you will find that multifamily communities in Summerhill are about to come to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Irving Maxwell.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Irving Maxwell. My wife and I live at 7113 Fayetteville Road. We've lived at this address for over 36 years. As homeowners and military retirees, we're opposed to the rezoning of this property at 7009 to 7015 Fayetteville Road. The owner is requesting that the property be rezoned so that a 96-unit apartment complex can be built on the site. We strongly oppose the rezoning. Fayetteville Road is a 1-mile-long street and the last through street that connects Yadkin and Riley Roads before entering Fort Bragg. Excuse me. Since 9/11, the traffic on Fayetteville has increased tremendously. The traffic is especially heavy during Fort Bragg rush hours and when Fort Bragg closes the Riley Road gate at 9 p.m. each evening. The heavy traffic forces us to turn around on our lawns because it is unsafe to back out into the street. There are numerous traffic violations and accidents on the street now, and will only get worse if a new apartment complex is allowed to be constructed. Fayetteville Road is already a densely populated area with apartment complexes at both ends of the street. Just off Yadkin Road is Jamestown Commons containing 216 apartments. At the opposite of Fayetteville, near Riley Road, are the Applewood Village Apartments with 56 units. This causes a large volume of traffic on the street, as Philyaw Road is the only entry-exit point for both apartment complexes. In addition, the only entry-exit point to the Four Seasons housing area is also Philyaw Road. This 100-plus unit housing area on Danish Drive is located directly across the road from the property being discussed this evening. The property is located at the most hazardous section of Philyaw, where the road enters a blind curve and dangerously snakes toward Riley Road. This S-curve section has a steep grade and blind spots as you enter and exit the curve. During the snow and ice storm in late February this year, the road had to be closed for hours because of a multi-vehicle accident in that area. The rezoning would increase traffic and traffic accidents on the street, increase the population density in an already congested area, decrease property value, increase crime, litter, and noise, and have a negative impact on the quality of life of residents on the street and the subdivision. The property is presently zoned for single-family homes, and we respectfully ask that the request for rezoning be denied. I prepared a collage of photos depicting some of the most hazardous areas on Philyaw Road. Thank you. What are your questions?
Thank you, sir.
There are no questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Sarah Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening. Excuse my appearance. I just came from a soccer game.
Who won?
My team.
There you go.
It's kids. Yes. Yeah. My name is Sarah Williams. I live at 7131 Philyaw Road. On March 13th, 2014, I was ran off the road into a ditch while trying to drive into my driveway by a soldier going so fast that I just had to go into the ditch opposed to him hitting me. Between 5:30 a.m. and 7 a.m., 4:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m., it's almost impossible to get in or out of your driveway because of the high volume of traffic on Philyaw Road. Do you think a 96-unit apartment complex would do anything better for us, or would it create more of a problem? The accident rate has increased more than 7% since the development of the first complex. On May 29th, my home was robbed and set on fire, but that's a discussion for another panel. If they are truly trying to assist the community, erecting a complex anywhere would suffice. There is readily available property on Bunce Road, Murkison Road, and Shaw Road. These places don't require as much clearing as the property on Philyaw Road. These said areas would benefit from an apartment complex and better housing. The only advantage there is to placing another apartment complex in an already overpopulated area that's dealing with an increase in break-ins, robberies, and accidents is the zip code, taxes, and rent on our side of town, opposed to the other side. On behalf of our community, I ask the developers to please not put anything here and the council to deny their requests. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Chris North.
Thank you for your patience. I don't move as quickly as I used to. My name is Chris North. I've lived in Summerhill for 30-some odd years with my wife. We left California to find a place like Summerhill, and we won't go back to California. We're going to stay in Summerhill, and we hope you people will help us do that. I'm not going to rehash everything that's been said about the traffic conditions and the downgrading of the quality of life. I couldn't add anything to it. I think they did a wonderful job of it. You got to remember that we fight this battle every year or so, every other year, and we're getting a little bit tired of it. We don't think it's necessary. We feel that the council should talk to each other and see what the history has proven, and it will back up where we are now. And I don't know about your experts with their figures and facts and all, but I go through it every day. The conditions in Summerhill will only worsen if you slap a 95 to 100 family monolith right smack dab in the middle of our property and where we have to live and where we have to exist. I would just ask you all, would you like to have one slapped in the middle of where you live? And look deep within your hearts and ask yourself if that's what you want. But we're not going to take it. I hope that you see where we're coming from. We're not backing down. We've been up here before. We're asking you to please get together and search your hearts and see what is right for Summerhill. It's a well-developed, completely developed area. It don't need any more encroachment. We've got encroachment from the south, encroachment from the east, encroachment from the west. And the only reason we don't have encroachment from the north, and they're trying to do that now, is on Fayetteville, because that's where Fort Bragg is. Well, we don't need it. We like our little community. We want to leave it that way. I hope you can all understand where I'm coming from. I'm really fortunate to be here again. I'm 85, and I feel pretty good about it. I never thought I'd see my favorite councilman over there, Mr. Chris, but I told you I'd be back, see, and you didn't think I would, see. Okay, you know what the situation is. You got the facts and figures, and you know how we feel. I'm going to leave it in your hands, but believe me, you vote against us, we're going to be back, and we won't wait a year to come back. That's not a threat, just a promise, because I love all of you, and welcome all the new members that I didn't get to see. And if I've offended any of you by my emails, I certainly did not mean to, because I love every one of you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McDougal has a question for you, sir.
I just want Mr. North to know that I'm his favorite. He just don't know it yet.
I stand corrected. Okay, sir. Any other questions, please?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I hope you didn't take my email too strongly. I meant it only for the benefit of the people in Summerhill.
Appreciate your
I
passion.
think you're a good mayor, and we like you.
Thank you so much. I want to be your favorite mayor. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our final speaker is Mr. Calvin Dalton.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jack Dalton. I live with my wife in Summerhill since 1981. We moved there after an 8-year search when I came back from Vietnam, looking for a place to live in Cumberland County. We lived out on the north side in College Downs until we found this property. Since then, my children have grown up, graduated, left out of our area. The children in our area right there are starting to get back out into the streets as some of the younger people are moving back. They move around a lot. We're trying to cut down on that traffic. Mr. Harmon was correct right there in that there's 2 close properties to this property. We have 5 areas that are in contention that are apartment areas. We have the Jamestown Commons, that's just on the west side, the east side. We also have Kensington Court right on Yakin Road around the corner. We have Liberty Square, which is to the south. It can be doubled at any time. It's got enough property there to double up the area there. We have Summerhill townhouses, and then on the west end of Fayetteville, of course, we have Applewood Village Apartments. Fayetteville itself is 1.4 miles long, 1.04 miles long. In that area, we have 9 entrances in and out of the residential areas. We also have 9 entrances in and out of commercial properties. We have 4 school bus stops. We have 2 regular city bus stops. We have no other area to move to widen the road for any of these buses to move off to the side or for anybody to go around. In front of this area, they could make a turn lane, sure, but they're going to encroach into their own property, and then we're still going to have to stop traffic because of the other traffic on the road. As we look forward to 295, which has started construction this week on the north side of our housing area, they're already cutting down the trees. That traffic will come from the construction zones along Filia. They will close down the Yadkin Road gate. They will close down the Riley Road gate for lengthy times of period so that there's only one place to go, Filia. It will come to a dead stop. We saw after 9/11, when they closed it down, that place was stopped. I thank you very much. I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, that concludes our speakers for this item.
Very nice. We'll close the public hearing. Mr. McDougall.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, I appreciate all of the lengthy discussion. But I move to deny the rezoning of this property from MR5/CZ Conditional Zoning District as presented by the staff.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McDougall, second by Mr. Moan. The motion is to deny. Is the question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, discussion on the motion, please. Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. And we will take a 5-minute break, council.
I need that break. Right thing, break.
Me too.
All right, because I know the city attorney likes to be very thorough with these things. We'll take our time as we move to 8.05. Mr. Harmon?
Mr. Mayor, the next case we have before you is P1430F. The requested action is to go from SF10 to LC. This is actually a split-zoned lot currently. They're wishing to extend the limited commercial area of this lot. Property is located at 7501 Ascot Avenue. You got an idea here of where the property is located here, basically along North Riley Road in between Ascot and Paxton Drive. As you can see, the properties mainly, other than the church here to the north, along Riley and the school here to the south, are all commercial along that way. Currently, they are all basically commercial, one lot deep, and this property originally was one lot, and then the back portion that had a residence was purchased, and those were combined into a bigger lot at some point. Currently, again, there is a commercial development on the front of this property. You got the school and the church in the lighter blue, lower density commercial here in the pink, and then commercial here along Riley as well. Again, the land use plan calls for light commercial along this corridor along Riley, basically one lot deep. Again, it originally, or still shows the way it originally was with the front lot before it was combined with the back lot being commercial and the back portion being residential. A couple of photos of how the property currently looks. This is the commercial part of the property, which has a sewing and cleaning business on it. This is the back side of the property, and just here to the right you can see the neighbor's fencing. But this is the area that they're looking to extend the commercial zoning into. The Zoning Commission and staff recommend denial. It was denied by the Zoning Commission and is coming to you on appeal. That there is no substantial difference between this rezoning and one that was denied in 2006. That the land use plan calls for split zoning districts between low-density residential and the light commercial as it stands now. And extension of the commercial district would begin to encroach into the single-family residential neighborhood. Are there any questions of staff before we open your public hearing?
Yes, Mr. Colvin.
Hey, Mr. Harmon, I appreciate that presentation. So, I was looking into this. So basically, you're saying that in 2006, this came before council and it was denied, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so we know that's approximately 9 years ago. And basically, your land use plan that we're looking at was what, a 2010 plan?
Correct.
Which was drafted when?
In the late 90s.
Okay. So with those two factors in mind, the conditions of Fayetteville, the population of Fayetteville, the demographics of Fayetteville in 99 and in 2006 have changed tremendously today. Would you support that?
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that, how do we know that this particular business has not grown along with the population of Fayetteville and may need access to this additional space?
Well, that'll be up to you to determine tonight if you think that that's what has happened. Again, what we're looking at is, the land use plans of the city and the fact that it would be encroaching into the neighborhood some, starting that encroaching especially.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Art.
Mr. Harmon, I think I brought this up the other night during our agenda briefing. If my recollection serves me well, we heard this on the previous council 2 years ago, and this property came up, and there was a petition to rezone it, and I'm confident that the council voted to deny that. Is there no record of that?
No, this one hasn't come up in the last.
Yeah, this property's directly across the street. There's a church to the north of it.
There is a church to the north.
And I'm pretty confident that there was a zoning case that we heard on the previous council in regard to this property.
Well, that's my apologies if it is. I did not see it in our record, and I don't recall that. And I usually have a pretty good memory for all of these times I have to stand in front of you. You may be correct in that then.
I just think, I feel like that would be valuable information for this council to be able to consider in making a decision in regard to this zoning case.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Mr. Crisp?
Mr. Harmon, we've hashed this before. Now, what may have occurred is, since zoning and staff were recommending disapproval, the owner may have withdrawn her request. But we definitely have had this on our agenda sometime in the last 2 years, no doubt about it. Okay? Now, if she withdrew it, then there would still be a record, right?
We would still have record of it, correct?
This is familiar. We've been there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crisp. Mr. Hurst?
Mr. Harmon, the zoning commission, was that a unanimous decision on their part to deny?
Their denial of that, I believe that's in your packet. Hold on.
Well, I just wanted you to confirm it for the audience.
Yeah.
It was not unanimous.
It
Okay,
was
thank
not.
you, Mr. Harmon.
It was a split decision, I believe 3-2, is that correct? And just to the question a moment ago, if it did come a couple of years ago, what could have happened, and I may have missed it because of this, it could have come as the Riley Road address instead of the Ascot Avenue address. And I may have missed it in our list as we were going through everything, preparing for this. Again, I just don't remember this case, and usually, especially ones in the last 6 years since I've been here, I usually know those pretty well.
Mr. Harmon, we'll give you a break. You handle quite a few of these. But.
Thank you. Mr. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that came up at the zoning meeting. I think they talked a little bit about when the last one was.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, we have 3 speakers for this item, 1 in favour and 2 in opposition. The first one is Mr. George Rose.
We'll open the public hearing. Welcome, Mr. Rose.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. We obviously went before the zoning commission and they denied us. I think they conceptually didn't necessarily disagree with the request. I think because of the opposition that showed up, they felt like we should have an opportunity to speak with them and also to meet with DOT about the access on Riley and Ascot Drive. So I think that's the reason that vote went the way it did. You're going to hear from a couple of ladies in the neighborhood who, are, as typically the residents are concerned about traffic. I do want to point out, if Craig could bring up that aerial photograph of the whole area. I see it here on your screen here.
Yeah, they've got it.
There you go. And if you could, I don't know whether you could zoom out any more, but if you did, you would see that the concern of the residents is going to be that people using this commercial property would impact their neighborhood. But as a practical matter, there's no reason for anyone using a commercial business on this corner to enter that residential neighborhood. It's literally a maze of roads back there. It doesn't make common sense to turn and go in that neighborhood to try to get away from this site and onto the other major roads. So that's the main point I'd like to make. I'd also just point out that zoning is one lot deep, up and down Riley Road, and the zoning on this lot, as you see, is much shallower than the zoning on the lots to the south of it there. And then obviously that large church lot To the north, the western access into the parking lot of that church is much farther into the residential subdivision than any access to this lot would be, even with the commercial rezoning. And then literally the site plan that we've worked on, the access onto Ascot Drive would literally only be about 30 feet closer to the subdivision than the paved access onto Ascot Drive is now. So we're essentially not changing to any significant way the access onto Ascot in terms of impacting the neighborhood. So be glad to answer any other questions you might have.
Mr. Rose, Mr. Arp has a question.
And Mr. Rose, thank you for your discussion. On the, looking at the diagram, the aerial photograph, the lots that you mentioned being one deep, they run about to the, I'm just going to say roughly the 4/5 area of the zoning question. Do you need that whole area to meet the requirements for the business? I mean, if we match the back boundary with all the other existing properties, would that be sufficient?
Well, obviously the request is for the whole lot. I mean, that's a property line of the lot. It's, there's a residence on the lot to the west of that. We're simply making the request based on the where the property line is. Certainly we'd take that versus a no, but the request is for the full depth.
Okay, thank you.
But again, the access onto Ascot will be much closer to Riley Road than the western property line of this rezoning request.
Mr. Rose, you have a lot of friends. Don't go anywhere. Mr. Crisp, Mr. Colvin, and Mr. McKee.
Yes, sir. You mentioned the church. Church don't count. We rule out churches. We don't mess with those. Why are you asking for an access on Ascot, which is a residential street, and not a continuing access off Riley Road from the north side of that property? And when you look at it, there's plenty of room for a driveway from there into that property. The concern, sir, is once we begin the encroachment of commercial traffic on residential streets, we're creating a problem, all right? And this is what I'm seeing here. You're asking for access on Ascot. Now, one deep, and we won't get into semantics about the size of one deep, because we can show you streets where one deep is smaller than that, and certainly where others are larger than that. But one deep means the lot size, no matter what that lot is, whether it's a 1,000-foot lot or a 500-foot lot, one deep, and that's why we've had that. Again, the question here is, why is it necessary to have an entranceway for commercial traffic on Ascot rather than continuation of commercial traffic coming into her property on Riley?
I think I can answer that. As traffic increases on Riley, DOT looks at that whole corridor. And one of the things they've looked at is trying to limit access onto Riley. And so in our meetings with DOT, they've talked about literally forcing this property owner to close the Riley Road access. DOT actually prefers, because it's a corner lot on that location, they prefer that traffic go out onto Ascot so that you have more people trying to access Riley Road from one driveway rather than from multiple driveways. So they're going to attempt to do that all up and down Riley Road where it's practical to limit access to Riley Road to multiple, where multiple properties can access at one point. So DOT literally is telling us we have to access it on Ascot Drive.
But northbound traffic on Riley is going to have to make a left turn across lanes, across two lanes anyway. And
well, they're going to have to do that whether they come into the property from Riley or if they turn in. I mean, you're going to have to cross traffic to get either way.
And then if you got soldiers coming southbound out of Riley to get sewing done, they can immediately make a right turn. But when they turn around to go back, they got to make a left turn across two lanes of traffic. So I'm just in the quandary here as to how the entrance into Ascot is going to minimize traffic. Everything coming to that, 99% of the people, customers coming to that business are coming to it via Riley Road. not by Ascot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Just one other question. So basically, when I'm looking at the land use plan that has light commercial, if this were one lot versus being separated, we wouldn't be here today, right? Is that correct? Because the depth of it is equivalent to everything else going up and down that.
It's essentially, it's a little deeper, but it's essentially, that's one of the points we're making is one lot deep, this lot is, the zoning is divided right down the middle. It's not as deep as the properties to the south, a whole string of properties to the south. The commercial zoning is not nearly as deep on this one lot.
And just a question that I need for clarity, and I don't know if this is something for the city attorney, but in the event if DOT closed the entrance points from Raleigh, what would this particular landowner have to do to come back to ask for permission to review the same thing that we're doing now? Would it automatically be granted because there was the only access, or how would that be treated, Mr. Harmon?
So your question is if for some reason DOT restricted their Raleigh Road access at some time in the future? Typically, and the zoning were still the same as it is right now. They would work with DOT and the city's traffic services to bring another entrance, probably there on the Ascot side. But typically, DOT, once you've got a driveway, doesn't make you shut them down unless there's something significant that happens through there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am sorry I have forgotten the gentleman's name listening to all the questions.
George Rose.
Mr. Rose, there is currently 2 driveway accesses into that particular property, I believe. Is that correct? One from Ascot and one from Raleigh.
Right.
So I'm not sure what the discussion is when we're saying that they need access from Ascot when they already have it. Secondly, I attend a lot of community watches in that area, and one of the biggest complaints that we receive is the volume of traffic coming through that housing area, especially during the rush hour times of day. People are, especially the one street, as you can see, I think it's called Decatur Drive, and they're turning off Ascot and all these other streets and making that a freeway, because it is difficult to get back out on the Raleigh if you come off to come back, but a lot of people are just skipping through a couple of lights by going through that neighborhood. It's one of the complaints I hear a lot when I'm visiting their community watches. Can you tell me for clarity what happened to the home that was on that lot? Was it torn down by the storm, or was it torn down by the current owner?
I don't personally know. When I became involved in the property, it was already gone. Now, there are some other representatives of Ms. Mendenhall here that might know that, but I don't know when it was taken out or for what reason. Can I say about the photograph I've passed around is just a little closer up view, and you can see that the pavement for the current building on the corner is to the western edge of that building. And so literally you can come out onto Ascot Drive today where that edge of pavement is. And the site plan that we've worked on and talked to DOT about, literally our driveway would be 30 feet farther west or 30 feet closer to the residential neighborhood than they can currently turn out onto Ascot Drive. And again, I think the point needs to be made again that DOT at some point will work to close the Raleigh Road access, and this property would be forced to go out onto Ascot Drive. So I think in terms of a rezoning request, the access onto Ascot Drive should not play a role in it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd not finished, but he made a comment. If I'm allowed, I can continue.
All right, go ahead, sir, and then we'll move on to Councilmember Wright.
All right. I think Mr. Harmon was saying to us that once a driveway permit is issued, it's normally not taken back up, and this gentleman keeps saying that that's just the opposite of that. Who's correct?
Well, the only thing I can say is that in our discussions with DOT, they have said that they would work to close the Riley Road access, and that they would much prefer that this property access Ascot exclusively.
And if you move that driveway that's currently on Ascot in another 30 feet, it would run directly into the building, I believe. Is that correct?
No, it'd be west, or it'd be west of the the rear wall of that current building. That current building would likely stay for the foreseeable future, and the new development would be on the piece that would presumably be rezoned. The driveway being between the new building and the existing building, but it literally would only be 30 feet farther west or closer to the residential neighborhood than they now can come out onto Ascot Drive.
Did you also want to confer with one of the other people that are with you as to what happened to the previous home that was there?
This is the son-in-law of Mrs. Mendenhall.
My name is Don Rosamowski, and I'm Mrs. Mendenhall's son-in-law. I live at 508 Colony Circle North in Wilmington, North Carolina. That house was...
Excuse me just a minute. Is he signed up to speak?
I was, but I denied...
Excuse me, 1 minute. Madam Clerk, is he signed up to speak?
Yes, sir, he was, but then he withdrew before the meeting started.
Okay, I'm sorry we cannot hear from you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You could have told him.
Is there another question for Mr. Rose? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Wright?
Yes, Mr. Rose. Do you know what type of business is looking at going into this particular lot?
No, I don't think there's been that planning that far ahead. I think that just would give her the opportunity to expand her business. She's got a thriving business there with a large customer base, and I think she'd like the opportunity to expand that building, build a new building. It's an old residence.
What type of business does she have?
I think it's sewing and, yeah,
Sewing
alterations, sewing.
in a
type
barber
stuff.
shop, and she's just
barbershop
looking
there too.
to extend that that business a little bit. Okay. My question then would be estimated traffic going in and out of that particular business now. Does that interfere with the residential neighborhood? Am I asking the right person?
I mean, I'm not sure I can comment on that adequately, other than to say, again, I don't see any reason why someone leaving that commercial site would go through that neighborhood to try to get back out onto Riley Road, because they can make a right turn out of that property now, and if they go somewhere else through the neighborhood, they either have to make a right turn on Riley or they have to go left on Riley. I don't understand why anybody would leave that corner lot and go through that neighborhood.
Is that an argument, going back through the neighborhood?
Well, I think the concern of the residents, and you're going to hear from them, I think they're going to say that it's going to increase traffic in their neighborhood, and I disagree with that. I don't think it makes sense.
Mr. Rose, that's a beautiful segue. Thank you. We are not finished with the public hearing yet, but we still have some other questions. Are these questions for Mr. Rose directly?
I got another one.
Okay. Mr. Hurst, then Mr. Crisp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is kind of to Mr. Rose's comment or statement regarding DOT, and I just wanted to ask Mr. Schufert a question, if I may, regarding that traffic along North Riley Road. Is it not only what DOT has been sharing with the city, or from what Mr. Thompson has shared with me and presentations that you have made to Mr. Thompson on our quarter studies, that in fact is the case especially Rayford Road and Ramsey Street, where we want side streets off of the main thoroughfare, that they are planning on cutting off entrance and exits onto these businesses so that we could kind of relieve that traffic on the major thoroughfares to kind of like side streets, if you will. So Mr. Rose brought up a pretty good point about that. Is that not the case?
Yes, sir. That would be the case. The goal would be to limit the number of driveways along the major thoroughfares to reduce what they call side friction from having multiple driveways. And one method of doing that is to utilize existing side streets to provide access to the property. So that would be a goal that I could certainly see redevelopment of this site triggering. But by the same token, if in the event the rezoning does not happen, I doubt DOT will unilaterally close the existing driveway in Raleigh.
Thank you.
That was my question Mr. Hurst asked, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Kathleen Tannehill.
Welcome.
Hi, my name's Kathleen Tannehill, and I live at 7514 Ascot Avenue. And I have a small petition here. I had one for the planning board, and unfortunately, they kept it. So I have this one here. But to the I don't know how to say this. I've lived on Ascot since 1981. And the property that she's talking about rezoning used to be a house on there. She sold that house and moved it for, I think, whatever purpose she wanted to build some more businesses. And I was told by one of the construction guys that she wanted to put a building in, build a building in there because her son is a lawyer. And she wanted to put an office in there for him to run a business. Another reason I'm against this, one of my neighbors that is now moved had a young son going to Ben Martin Elementary School. And she had a young baby in a stroller, and she was going, because we do not have sidewalks, she was going down Ascot to take him to school. And a car coming from Fort Bragg going into her dry cleaners, instead of turning like he should have, he did not. He made a sharp turn and went right into and cut her off and almost hit her, which could have killed her and her two kids. And she did come before the rezoning, and because they told her the only way that they would let her rezone that was to put a fence up along Ascot so that her patrons couldn't come back out onto Ascot, that they would go in Riley Road and come out Riley Road. And that's the one that you're talking about, that there's no, because she stopped and said that she did not want to have it rezoned. And that was the reason that it probably was not on the on the papers. And that's one of my reasons for not. And I have this, I can bring it over.
Thank you very much. Now, we had some technical issues with the clock, so are you finished anyway?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, our final speaker is Miss Nancy Torres.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I live at 7584 Deerwood Drive in LaGrange House and area. I am the Community Watch President for this neighborhood. I have been for 13 years. I listen to the people in the neighborhood and try to appease them and help them. We are against this rezoning because even if y'all would approve it and she would build an office for her son, and that business did not make money and it would fold and it would be an empty house, then if you rezone it commercial, that means any kind of store or anything could be put in that lot. And then we would have business inside our neighborhood. As you see on there, the laundry and the barber shop, it gets a lot of traffic, and that there already is an exit on the Ascot from there. She doesn't need another exit to Ascot on there. We just recently got a new pastor for our church, and the house for the church is right behind the church, and he has 3 small children who are running the roads right now, and I would hate to see them get hit by a car. As far as traffic, have you ever been on Riley Road when there's like a wreck up on Cliffdale Road? Have you ever been that way? The traffic is backed up from there all the way to Fort Bragg Gate. What the people do is they cut through our neighborhood, which if they turn down Ascot would be one street, go to Decatur, turn left, and try to come through the neighborhood to come out to the lights on Morganton Road. And we have a mess in our neighborhood for that. They do not adhere to the stop signs. They do not adhere to the speed limits in the neighborhood. And if we have business in there, then we're going to have to put up with that, also the Fort Bragg traffic. I have lived there 44 years, so I have seen the growth on Raleigh Road, and we do not begrudge Miss Mendenball anything. She had a house there on that property. She had it moved. She could have sold that house and made money off of that property, and she chose not to. No, we do not want her to infringe on our resident, because we are a residential area. We are not a business area. I do not think that I and either one of y'all would want a business going up one house below yours with the traffic. Not only traffic, but strangers in the neighborhood. We have a pretty good neighborhood as far as crime rates go. As far as crime rates go, we feel like new businesses with traffic on Raleigh Road, they will come into our neighborhood. They will go down Decatur once they learn the way and cut through the neighborhood to get out to Morgan Road. So yes, I asked you to vote against this one, please.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, we have no further speakers.
We'll close the public hearing. Mayor Pro Tem Davey?
Mr. Herman, I'm not sure if this graph is better or one that really shows the different zonings, but I'm really trying to understand this. You know, we have to base this on the situation. And Riley Road, I'm on it a lot. I'm going to be on it more starting in a couple of weeks. I don't quite understand when I'm looking at the other commercial areas, the church. I know we said don't consider the church, but on a Sunday after church, there's probably a lot of traffic there as well. So I guess I'm just having a hard time understanding why we should not approve this, but we've approved commercial all around it, and there's already been traffic going into neighborhoods. And I don't see how by just changing this zone it's going to bring up any additional traffic.
Again, we have to look at the long-range plans for the city that have been set out. When you look at the church there to the north, churches, that's actually not in a commercial district. That church is in a residential district because churches can go anywhere in the city. That church could also be back along Decatur or one of the other residential streets further in. We don't restrict where those goes, basically. As far as, where the other line there to the south, again, this has been, that area that's zoned residentially has been a residential lot in the past. And, that's what the plans that we have at this point for the city, show it as.
Well, that speaks to, as we're working on our land use plan, 2010 has expired. And, once again, looking at this map, there's a lot of commercial, a lot of thoroughfare that's already happening here. And I just think it's unfair for us to deny, as this business owner, all they're trying to do is be more safe in my eyes, because trying to have their customers turn off of Riley Road is just really dangerous. I don't see a customer going all the way back to a neighborhood. I just see a customer turning in, going into the property, taking care of their business, and turning back out. I mean, I'm just saying, just to be consistent with other businesses on that road, I just don't think it's fair for us to single out this current zoning.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. McDougal, Mr. Moan, then Mr. Crisp, then Ms. Jensen.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order to make a motion, is what I'm
More discussion.
ready to do.
Mr. McDougal, why don't we go through a round of discussion first, sir?
Please.
Would you accept that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moan, you're next.
I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for Mr. Shuford, I believe. Back during our strategic retreat and part of our in-processing and some of our work sessions, you gave a presentation a couple of times about the surplus of commercial properties we have here in Fayetteville.
Yes, sir.
I mean, significant surplus of already commercially zoned, underutilized properties. We've updated the UDO to try to make smaller commercial tracts more developable by reducing the stormwater, tweaking
some of the landscaping, open
some of the
spaces, those
landscaping.
things.
And so what we continue to see is a policy of taking single-family homes, rezoning it to commercial, when we already have an abundance of commercial spread throughout almost every one of our major arteries, here in Fayetteville. Would that be a true statement?
Yes, sir, that would be a true statement. And the only thing I would add to that is whenever you start to enlarge these properties and you're not placing restrictions on the types of uses, it can be what one of the opponents suggested, that it could be turned into a fast food restaurant, a convenience store, or something that would actually generate quite a bit of traffic.
Right. And so one final question. This is a straight rezoning tonight, not a special use permit, not a conditional zoning. We're just asking to straight rezone this land to
Yes,
allow
sir,
whatever
that's what
permitted
it is.
use.
It would allow anything that would be allowed in the LC zoning district.
Limited commercial. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Crisp.
Mr. Shuford, I just want to get some clarity here, because I see this is not complicated at all, in my opinion. What we have here is a lot that's zoned residential, and a request to change that residential lot in order to expand it to have businesses or business moving into a neighborhood. That's encroachment. Am I looking at it right? Is that?
Yes, sir, that's certainly one way it could be looked at.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Jensen.
I have one question. It might be for one of the ladies there. Is anything going on in that lot? Does the church use it for parking on Sundays, or does it just stay clear?
Stays clear, so won't let us use it.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Shuford, this could be a question for you as well. Do you have and it may be in our packet, that kind of tells us some ideas of the limited commercial?
In terms of the uses, it's pretty extensive in terms of what you can do there. I mentioned.
Isn't that the zoning for like business offices and?
No, ma'am. The limited commercial would allow, it's really our second most intense commercial zoning district. We have three. We have neighborhood commercial, which is limited in terms of the types of uses, but also the size of the building. Then you have limited commercial, which has some limitation about how large the buildings are. And then community commercial, which is pretty much what you would see at the mall or along much of Skybow Road, so large-scale development. So this sort of falls into the in-between. For a property this size, it's going to be limited in what can go there, but some fairly intensive uses could occur on a piece of property like this, from convenience stores, fast food restaurants, and the like.
And there's already a business there, correct?
Yes, ma'am. There's a sewing business there, a barber shop business, sort of personal service type businesses. So if you're looking for some options here, you could think about suggesting that the applicant return with a conditional zoning of the property that would limit the number and type of businesses that could go in there, or alternately to consider a different zoning district that could accomplish what they wanted to do without opening it up to such an extensive list of commercial possibilities.
Okay, Mr. Rose? Is that something your applicant is interested in doing?
Well, she unfortunately is not here. Now, one of her representatives, Mr. Graves, is back there, and I think I see him shaking his head that that's something that certainly would be better than a no at this point.
Okay, so in this case, Mr. Shuford, would we bring this back, or would we possibly have a motion for conditions, or?
We would need to bring this back to you at some point if you wanted to table it. Is that correct, Mr. Harmon?
If you're actually looking for it to come back as a conditional zoning, you would have to send it all the way back to the zoning commission so that we can advertise it and so they can hear it as a conditional zoning, and then it would come forward to you again as a conditional zoning.
So if that was your direction, you would make a motion to remand it back to the zoning commission for consideration as a conditional zoning district.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shuford. It sounds like Mr. Rose and the applicant is least interested in looking at the possibilities that we have, so that would be an option for council.
Thank you. Mr. McDougall.
Mr. Mayor, I move to deny the rezoning of this property, LC Limited Commercial, as presented by the staff.
Second.
The motion is made for denial by Mr. McDougall, seconded by Mr. Moan. Council, discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember McDougall, would you be interested in having staff relook at this possibility since the applicant is willing to come back with more stricter conditions, just to explore the option? Again, if it comes back to us, we will still have the same options, but this way will allow the applicant an opportunity to know about the other conditions we have.
The applicant has not expressed such to us, Mayor Pro Tem, and I think that if she wanted to do that, she can go back through the zoning commission and make such a request, but she's not here to make that request tonight.
I don't think they can go back for, what, 1 year? Yeah, so we would have to table it, and the gentleman in the back said that they're interested in looking at other conditions, so this would be the time that we would allow them to explore those conditions. If not, they'll have to wait a whole year.
No.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, council, I'll ask for your vote. Madam Clerk, that is a 6-4 vote. Those voting against the motion to deny are Councilmembers Wright, Councilmember Davy, Councilmember Colvin, Councilmember Hurst. Those in favor of the denial, Councilmembers Crisp, Councilmember Jensen, Councilmember Arp, Mayor Robertson, Councilmember McDougal, Councilmember Moan. Thank you, Council. We skipped item 8.6, moved it to the front of the agenda. We're now at 8.07, which is the annexation on Airport Road. Mr. Harmon.
Actually, Mr. Nash, I'm just grabbing getting my PowerPoint out.
Thought he
his
left
way.
for the night.
I hope I'm done. Let's see.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is your second annexation public hearing this evening.
We didn't make 950.
We're referring to it as the property of Vance Johnson Plumbing Incorporated. It's located on Airport Road, southern side, just west of the Fayetteville Regional Airport. The request was actually a satellite request. It's shown here on this map, outlined in blue with a dash yellow boundary around it. We have made it contiguous by adding that bright green area. The city limits right now is shown with a red line and shaded in yellow, so we can make this property contiguous by adding that green area along a stretch of Airport Road, about 400 feet. So we're processing it as a contiguous annexation. Just a couple of photos of this one. We're looking down Airport Road now towards 301. It would be beyond that mobile home you see there. It's currently wooded and developed. And a little closer in, just showing you it's currently undeveloped. This is our legal description map as we refer to it. Again, you can see the area we're adding to make it contiguous. You've got a lot of information in your packet. I won't be going through all that here, but jumping to the recommendations, we are recommending that you consider annexing this area effective this evening, and that your action be in line with the initial zoning case that was on your agenda, consent agenda. Like in the other case, there's about 3 reasons here this evening. The petition is sufficient. It was turned in by Mr. Vance Johnson, who's the owner of this plumbing company, and he is still the owner, no change there. And by the way, he does plan to move his existing business, which is on Mid-Pine Drive, to this site if it is annexed and developed with his new office building. Our departments and the PFC divisions can absorb this area. The budgetary impact should be positive based on some assumptions about the kind of building he plans to build.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we have no speakers for this item.
We will open and close the meeting. Council, any discussion or questions for Mr. Nash? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Mr. McDougal, seconded by Mr. Wright. Council discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for your vote, please. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. .08, Mr. Shuford.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. If it please you, I will not bring up our PowerPoint presentation for either of the next 2 items. This item in particular is a modification to the annexation agreement that was done in 2010 between the city of Fayetteville and the town of Hope Mills. And the intent behind that annexation agreement was to frame areas of the county that could ultimately be annexed by either municipality, so that it could be served in a very efficient and appropriate fashion. What's happened here is that a large 320-unit subdivision has been proposed, and it covers about a fifth of it would be in the city of Fayetteville. So it makes a lot of sense to simply adjust the boundaries and let Hope Mills have the entire subdivision rather than create an inefficient method of serving. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shuford. Mr. McDougall, did you have a question for Mr. Shuford?
No, sir. I'd like for Mr. Shuford to just let us see that visual for the sake of those that are maybe listening to us tonight. Watching and listening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the visual. What you have here is the all the different sub areas of the annexation agreement, and this proposed provision just takes care of a couple of those sub areas. It's shown here is the sort of a blow up of it. Let's see if I can get the cursor to come up without.
So Crystal Spring goes into Hope Mills? That would be on the Hope Mills side?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you have Fisher Road and Lakewood Road over on the left-hand side of the map. Camden Road is down to the south. And then you have Owen Drive sort of cutting through this general area. And then here's the layout of the subdivision. And if you see the very dark line that sort of cuts through the middle of the subdivision, that's the current line. The line to the left of that, sort of avoiding the subdivision entirely, is the proposed line to where the adjustment would occur.
Okay, is that it? Madam Clerk?
Mayor, we have no speakers for this item.
We'll open and close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion from council.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Crisp.
Insomuch as Hope Mills adopted this adjustment on September 15th of this year, I move that we adopt the revised City of Fayetteville Hope Mills annexation agreement that will also adjust the line where it splits a large parcel near Lakewood and Fisher Road, effective this date.
We have the motion. Is there a second, Mr. Crisp?
Second.
It's Mr. McDougall. Council, discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote, please. Madam Clerk, that again is unanimous. Mr. Shuford, 9.01.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Wright.
due to our previous briefing on item 9.01, I move to approve the items in 9.01 as stated by the recommendations of the city staff, with the exceptions of 316 Maloney Avenue and 5800 Pepperbrush Drive, District 5, and Maloney is District 2, given that those items were taken care of. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The 316 Maloney looks like it's going to enter our community development program to have it demolished. And over the weekend, Pepperbush Drive, that property was demolished, and it's no longer necessary to have it on this agenda.
Thank you. Let me get a second, please, on the motion.
Second.
That's Mr. Moan, Mr. Wright, Mr. Moan, second. Council, further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote, please. Madam Clerk, that again is unanimous. Thank you very much. Council, any other motions wish to be made
Yes,
tonight?
sir. Motion to adjourn.
I would like to carry the discussion.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chris.
Thank you.